What's up, Tide fans? Stacey Blackwood here with another episode of Tide Talk Live. And as always, I am joined by my good buddy Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I just realized I don't need that up anymore since I got this microphone and all that. But I'm doing good, man. Just glad it's Friday, so the weekend is here. Long day at work, but we're past it. So let's just bring on the weekend, man.
Yeah, no doubt. But the most exciting thing that's here is fall camp, and that means the
Hmm.
football season's here. And earlier this week, Jake, we talked about our offensive depth chart projections, and now here today on this episode, we're going to be looking at the defensive side of the ball. But before we do that, you guys know the drill. Jump in the comment section. Let us know how you think the defensive side of the ball is going to be lining up this fall once the season rolls around. Here in 29 days is when kickoff is. So super excited about that.
Wow.
Hit that like button, hit that share button. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button and help us reach our next goal of 2,000 subscribers. All right, Jake, look, it's the defensive side of the ball has kind of been a big talking point for a couple seasons now
Yeah.
under defensive coordinator Pete Golden. And this kind of seems like the year that it's either going to make it or break it for Pete. He should have an outstanding defense returning, of course, led by Will Anderson Jr., perhaps the best player in college football, regardless of position. And there's a lot of other returning talent, Jake. You look at Henry Toa, you got DJ Dell on the defensive line. You got guys like Jordan Battle, DeMarco Hellens, Brian Branch in the back end. So there's a lot of returning star power on that defensive side of the ball. And we're going to be looking at the depth chart here in just a minute, Jake. But there's got to be a lot to be excited about heading into this season on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely, and you just mentioned it. All the star power that we have on that side of the ball. I mean, Will Anderson, of course, is a household name, but I mean Jordan Battle. I mean, his entire career he's been consistent,
Yeah.
and he's been great. Brian Branch showed out, last year. He come to his own, and Kool-Aid did really well at corner when he had his time last year. So. Uh, defensively, we are stacked, and that's great to see.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about each position group here in just a second as we look at the depth chart. But I don't know if you got a chance to see any of the practice footage of yesterday, but Malachi Moore looks jacked.
He
That
does.
dude has been in the
Mhm.
gym, and he could be playing that money position this
Yeah.
this fall, and he's going to be a little more in the middle of the field and taking up on tight ends and stuff like that. So that bulk is probably by design, if I had to guess, and there's a lot of guys who look like they're in incredible shape, and I can't wait to talk about all
Mhm.
those guys. So let's just start, Jake, on the defensive line, returning pretty much everybody other
Yeah.
than Fedarian Mathis from last year's group. And much like last year, I think you're going to see a slew of players along the defensive line. I can't say for a fact who I think will be the starting three or two, depending on how Alabama lines up. So I'm just going to list about six guys really that I think are going to see a significant amount of playing time. DJ Dale, Byron Young, Justin Aboigbe, Tim Smith, Jamil Burrows. You're probably going to see Jaheim Otis, maybe see a little bit of Damon Payne. Monkel Goodwine's a name to be looking out for. I think
Mhm.
those are all guys who could see some playing time this fall. So the defensive line, the depth is amazing. Maybe not a true star there just yet. Not saying that it can't happen, but just a lot of depth there along the defensive line. And speaking of guys who looked in incredible shape, Justin Aboigbe looked leaner than ever
Mhm.
in the practice footage. So, and Jaheim Otis, speaking of lean, that dude has dropped from
Wow.
416 to 342. Just an incredible transformation since January. So the defensive line is loaded with talent and loaded with depth, and I cannot wait to see how those guys kind of rotate in and out along the defensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And one guy that we had brought up from time to time here is Justin Abourgaby, and how it just hasn't seemed like he has been, he reeks with talent. He just hasn't put it all together on the field yet. And I feel like his senior year he can do it. He has flashes from here, in this game, then the next like 2 or 3 games, he's nowhere to be found. I think he puts it all together mentally this year and can be that legit threat for us on that defensive line. Also, another guy, DJ Dell and Byron Young. We need another Phildarian Mathis type guy this year, and they could do it. But also Tim Smith. Tim Smith, I thought would have a coming out party last year, just didn't really click. But I think he could be that guy this year as well.
Yeah, there's like we're talking about all these guys, and
Mhm,
all those guys have a lot of experience. When you think about it, I mean, Tim Smith has played a lot of snaps. DJ Dale,
mhm,
Justin Aboybe, Byron Young, they've all played a ton of snaps in the SEC. So that's great, and it's going to be beneficial for Alabama this fall. But like you mentioned, we need that guy to step up in that role, like Fedarian Mathis did last year.
mhm.
I think he led all interior defensive linemen in the SEC was in sacks, with I think 8 or 9. So
Right.
having that pass rusher from the interior of the defensive line is going to be huge because we know what the two outside linebackers are going to do from the edge. So it's
Yeah.
just a matter of finding that other source on the interior there to kind of affect the quarterback. So I'm excited to see who kind of steps up and fills that role.
Absolutely, and like you said, you know what you're going to get from the two guys on the outside, and you can't block both of them. But if you have another threat coming after you, have three legit guys after the quarterback's not going to have any time at all to throw. So, I mean, this defense could be scary good this year. People just, I don't think, can realize that across the nation.
Yeah, if these guys stay healthy on the defensive side of the
Hmm.
ball, Jake, they have a chance to be super special. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see kind of how it unfolds and how that rotation unfolds along the
Hmm.
defensive line. But Jake, let's look to the linebacker situation. We know that Will Anderson's going to be at the Jack. We know that
Yeah.
Dallas Turner is going to be at the Sam. Henry Toto is going to be there as the Mike, as the signal caller on the defense. And you look at the other linebacker, inside linebacker there at the wheel. Is it going to be Jalen Moody? Is it going to be Deontay Lawson? Could somebody like Kendrick Blackshire or maybe even true freshman Jahad Campbell step in there? But I think it's probably going to be Jalen Moody, Jake. If I had to guess, he just seems like the guy with the most not the most talented, but he's the most ready at this moment. And so I
Hmm.
think that's kind of you're going to see, him and Henry To'oTo'o kind of pair up there on the middle of that Alabama defense.
Yeah, I agree. Jalen's been in the system for this is what his fifth year, I believe, counting
Right,
COVID
right.
year. So I mean, he knows the system, he knows the program down there. And there was talks about him transferring out, but he come back, and there's a reason he come back. So I think he's going to be that guy to line up beside Toto, and that's going to give that middle of that defensive front, on the linebacker side, a legit, run stopping, and there it's going to be really good along with the two guys on the outside.
Yeah, we talked about how along the defensive line, there's not a star there. But
Hmm.
that at the second level of that defense, Jake, it's just filled with stars.
Yeah.
Henry To'oTo'o, Dallas Turner, and Will
Hmm.
Anderson are all stars at the college level. So we go from having several guys who are really good players to a bunch of stars there on the second level of that defense. So there's a
Hmm.
lot to be excited about in that group. And you think that Chris Braswell is probably going to get some
Hmm.
rotational snaps as well, depending on certain packages. Coach Saban mentioned even having him and Dallas Turner and Will Anderson all on the field at the same time. So good luck
Yeah.
blocking all those guys. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how they use him,
Hmm.
especially with the likes of Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. So I think that's
Yeah.
another guy that's going to have a really good season for Alabama. Maybe Keanu Coat or a freshman
Hmm.
Jeremiah Alexander could work their way into some rotational snaps as well, and maybe even find some playing time. Late in ball games once the game's kind of been taken care of. But we go to
Yeah.
the third level of the defense, Jake, and there's more star power, Jake, with Jordan Battle, the guy we talked about before. DeMarco Helms is back. So there's a lot of talent returning there at the two safety positions.
Hmm.
And guys that are not just talented, but they're experienced. They pretty much started. Helms, despite when he missed with injuries, started the entire season last year. And when he was healthy, we saw how good of a player he could be. And we
Right.
all know what Jordan Battle is. He's the anchor there in the secondary, and I think he's going to have a special season. I think he's a dark horse candidate to win the Jim Thorpe Award as the nation's best defensive back. I really think he could have a super year as a senior.
Absolutely. You know, Jordan Battle is he come in and played a little bit as a freshman, and I mean he has just been, like we said, consistent his entire career at Alabama. And last year he made some incredible plays to stop touchdown. A lot of go ahead touchdowns. When the offense was kind of sputtering and stuff against some teams, kind of like the LSU game. I remember him making a big play that we needed to stop a touchdown, but again, the secondary. I mean, Jordan Battle, Brian Branch. I mean, and Helms seems like he is our headhunter per
Mhm.
se, and I mean, it is so loaded. We got Ritz coming in to play one of those corners potentially, but I'm not going to count out Kyrie Jackson at
Yeah,
that
me
other
either.
corner. So I mean, there's a lot of talent in that secondary.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Kyrie Jackson, Jake, because
Mhm.
I don't think it's an official shoe-in that
Right.
Eli Ricks wins the job. I think it's, there's a good chance, but there's also a possibility that both those guys play a good bit, and
Hmm.
it could be a situational type thing moving forward. I think Kool-Aid is going to be getting a ton of snaps. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Kyrie Jackson is going to be tough to beat out for Eli Ricks. But I do think it's possible that you see a good bit of both those guys, because you still have to remember that Ricks didn't really work out up until the latter part of the summer because of a shoulder injury. So he's
Hmm.
still trying to get himself back into good shape, not fitness shape, but in physical shape, and being ready to face those physical wide receivers in the SEC. So that's definitely a position to be watching out for. That starting corner spot opposite of Kool-Aid McKinstry. And you talked about Brian Branch. We know what kind of player he is. He's a guy that nobody talks about enough.
Right.
One of the best defensive backs in the country, and I'm excited to see how they kind of use him and Malachi Moore. I keep using the word situational. I'm not
Hmm.
sure we've had a defense under Nick Saban, or really that I can remember in my lifetime, where there's so many talented guys. You have about, probably 20 guys or more that you could play and be
Right.
starters for your team that you got to find a role for. And I
Hmm.
think you're going to see a lot of situational football and a lot of package specific plays, or for players. So I
Hmm.
think you're going to see a lot of Malachi Moore, a lot of Brian Branch. I don't think you can say one's a starter and one's a reserve player. I think they're both starters. They're just starters in different packages, and I think you're going to see a lot of different packages from Alabama this fall.
I agree, and one key that also helps is you can, like you said, rotate some of these guys out and situations stuff like that. But it keeps them healthy. It keeps them,
Yeah,
with
fresh.
fresh and everything. And come SEC football time, you're going to need those fresh guys. Because it gets rough when you get the SEC play.
Right, and but both Branch and Moore, when they first arrived on campus a couple years ago, they even got
Mhm.
some work at corner. So
Yeah.
they both played safety, they both played money star. So their position versatility is going to be key for Alabama this fall. If other guys start to get nicked up a little bit, those are two guys that you can move around to different spots on the field, and you're not
Hmm.
really going to miss a beat. So those two players are really important to this Alabama defense. They might not be the best players on the defense, but their roles are very important for Alabama's success.
Absolutely. And Malachi kind of fought injuries all year last year. So
Right.
hopefully he comes back healthy. Like you said, he is bulked up a little bit. So if he does play that star position against those tight ends, he's bulked up so he can make the plays on one with those tight ends now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Jake, this defense has me super excited. We've talked about on the show how we're both kind of defensive guys. We really enjoy good defense, and
Yeah,
not that Alabama hadn't played good defense the last couple of years, but it hasn't been what we've grown accustomed to in Tuscaloosa. And I think this year this team has a chance to be super special on the defensive side of the ball, and I for one am super excited about it.
absolutely. I want to go back to one thing you said real quick, talking about the linebackers. You potentially there. Let me say there's potential that all three of Anderson, Turner, and Braswell, all three on the field. That is more important for the defensive line to have that pass rushing guy to step up, because those three guys can get to the quarterback, but you might need a fourth option. If you have four people rushing the quarterback, they're not going to have any time. Three is bad enough. Two is bad
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah,
But
if
four,
If
true.
Jamil Burrows continues to develop like he did, like we saw in the spring, Jake, and
Yeah.
his ability to get after the passer
Hmm.
from that interior defensive line spot, that could be a deadly package.
My
Him there on the
gosh.
interior with
Yeah.
Braswell and Turner and Anderson lining up somewhere else. Good luck.
I'm glad I'm not an offensive coordinator, especially have to try to challenge this defense this year.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
know,
I mean,
I don't want to really dive into it because we're about wrapping this up, but I
mhm,
don't know how you scheme, how you're going to scheme against this defense, Jake. What do you
yeah,
do with Will Anderson? What do you do with Dallas Turner? How do you attack Henry To'oTo'o?
hmm
I don't know what you do, Jake. It's are you gonna go with your one on one matchup with against Kool Aid, against Eli
hmm
or Kyrie? You're
hmm
gonna try to attack Jordan Battle, Brian Branch, or Demarco Helms? Man, I don't know how you do it. It's going to take a lot of patience from offenses. I think. I think teams are going to have to be patient against Alabama this year because there's not really a weak link in this Alabama defense.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, you could say the defensive line might be that weak link, but we have guys there
Right?
that are
It's
experienced.
right.
So
I mean, we
I mean,
say, and the only reason we're saying it's a weak link is because there's
mhm,
not a we don't
a
right
star.
now. Yeah, there's not a star. There's not a Quentin Williams or a
hmm
Jonathan Allen or a Deron Payne. There's nobody like that yet that we know of.
Exactly, man. Quentin Williams on this team. My gosh, I don't think I honestly I know Georgia. I think what did they only give up like six and a half points a game last season or something.
Yeah, it was pretty low.
I think Alabama could have beat that if a interior guy can step up this year. I mean, because
Yeah,
that defense has that potential.
yeah. To me, that's the position group to be watching outside of the
hmm
Ricks and Kyrie Jackson battle is
hmm
who steps up on the defensive line to become that guy like Fedarian Mathis was last year for Alabama.
Exactly. We've got to find that guy. Once we get that guy, this defense is set. And look out.
Yep, no doubt. All right, well, hey, that's going to wrap up our defensive depth chart projections. Unless Jake has anything else to add, but
No, I'm
what a
good.
fun conversation when you
Yeah.
look at all the talent that's returning to Tuscaloosa on the defensive side of the ball. If you're not already, like I mentioned, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And that way you don't miss any of the content here at Tide Talk Live. Hit that thumbs up button. Help this video reach 100 likes. And if you like the show and you enjoy the content, be a friend and tell a friend about Tide Talk Live. But for Stacey Blackwood and Jake Thomas, this has been our defensive depth chart projection show. And until next time, roll Tide.
Roll